Cell phones have already replaced our cameras, our landlines, and even our alarm clocks. They're the very first things we look into in the morning, and the very last things we see when we go to sleep. We use them to talk with people, to plan events, and remind ourselves of them, and drive to places even if we've driven there hundreds of times before. Before I begin, I want to ask you all a few questions. No need to answer, just think about them. Now, how many of you have notifications turned on for one or more apps? How many of you have sent or received text messages during the duration of this event? And how many of these messages can be classified as something extremely important? It doesn't take a genius to tell us that cell phones are excellent devices. They help us communicate with people thousands of miles away. And the average smartphone nowadays is more powerful than the computers first used to take man to the moon. They can also store hundreds of gigabytes of games, movies, and music on a single device for a next to unlimited amount of time, something previously unheard of. However, we've all heard about what cell phones can do to us. They might be addictive, or their fabrication processes are inhumane for certain of their components. And we've all heard people a generation or two older than us complaining about all of the new gadgets that we have that they never did. However, there is some truth to their words. Communication is defined as the exchange of information through written, spoken, or any other form. Now, when we talk in person, face to face, there's invariably language, and whether it be sign language or Latin, there will always be slight grammar rules to abide by, and very slight changes in pronunciation that can completely change the meaning of the very same words. Take "that's amazing" and "that's amazing." You might not hear a huge difference right now. However, in conversation, the first one represents amazement at something, whilst the other one is just mockery. These small nuances in our communication may not seem like much. After all, we can make our sentences bold on WhatsApp, and we can use emojis to convey our facial expressions across thousands of miles. However, there will always be something about looking somebody in the eyes as they smile that simply won't be there when there's a screen separating us. Our cell phones aren't truly ruining anything for us. They're miniaturized computers with touchscreens. However, they're making it harder and harder for us to remember what life was like before them. Now, most of you here in the audience own a smartphone, and most of you can also remember the very first time you did. A touchscreen smartphone, I don't think you would have held more than 10 years ago. However, people in my generation, my age, say 16 or younger, can hardly remember it. They were so young. And most of us had computers in our house before we were even born. Now, these devices were created to help us communicate. However, are they really helping now? Let's talk about actual human interactions. Bullying, ordering food, sharing our holidays with our friends. All of these used to happen face to face. Bullying happened on the school playground, and once we were home, it stopped. We used to order food in person at a restaurant. However, now we can order it through apps with a simple tap of a button, and no human interaction is needed until the food is at your door. Even sharing our holidays. It used to happen once we were back from them, once we were at school or at work, sitting around a table with our friends, talking about who went to the south of France and who went to Cartagena. However, now all of this happens in real time. Holiday sharing through Snapchat for authenticity, and oftentimes Instagram with 10 filters and a nice caption. Now, we've had this switch from nobody having any phones to having one or two landlines in a house to having 5 or more smartphones in a single household at any given time. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, there's more people with access to cell phones than there are for places where they have clean water. That's right. According to a study conducted by the UN in 2016, in Africa, more people had easy access to cell phones or mobile phones than they ever did to clean water. Now, we've turned phones into something that we simply cannot live without. They used to be something to be talked about, something extremely important. However, nowadays, they're a necessity. Maybe we're advancing too quickly. Technology is designed to solve a need. The BlackBerry, for example, was created to have one key for every letter of the alphabet, so that there was no need to press the same key 3 times for a single letter. And the iPhone, released in 2007, was created with a touchscreen to help user interface and maneuverability. However, is there really a need for the 20,000 apps that are released on the App Store every single month? Now, obviously, this isn't the original intention of cell phones or computers in general. They were created to help us communicate, to help us learn new things. However, now, how many times do we find ourselves sitting at a table with our friends and family, people we're supposed to be able to talk with? However, we're just scrolling through the Facebook of people that we'll see the next day. However, it doesn't have to be like this. We can't necessarily stop everybody from using cell phones, and I'm not trying to do that. Keep your cell phones, keep everything. However, I want you to do 3 things. Now, first of all, tonight, try and put your phones away when you have dinner with your friends or family. Don't put them away so that they're in your pocket and you can still feel their weight. Put them away, hope maybe in a completely different part of your house or apartment. Also, next time you go out, maybe you'll want to have what I like to call a designated cooler. The only person in a group of 3 or 4 people that has very easy access to a phone. I also want you to try and catch yourselves when you're using your phone out of boredom or just to seem busy in a group of people. And maybe talk to the new people on the bus. You might make a new friend. Thank you.